program is brought to you by Newsworks in cooperation with the City of Eau Claire. This program is simulcast on WRFP-LP 101.9.
I'd like to call to order the Planning Commission meeting for September the 5th. Thank you for everyone intrepid enough to figure out how to get into the building tonight. First order of business, if you have a cell phone, please turn it off or turn the ringer off so it does not disturb the meeting. If you are planning to speak tonight, there are yellow sheets of paper on that back ledge. Please fill that out and hand it to Ned in the yellow shirt when you come forward. We will start the meeting first with the presentation from the city. Then the applicant will be asked to come forward to add any comments they'd like to. After that time, then we open it to public hearing. Please keep your comments short and to the point, as there are a lot of people here tonight. And at the end of the public hearing, we will close the floor, and then we will make a decision on the motion. First item on our agenda tonight is public hearing for recommendation of rezoning from R1A to R2P Jeffers Road, a preliminary plat for Camden Place.
This is the property in Crosshatch located east of Jeffers Road and west of our Northwest Community Park, we show in green. There's a vacant lot and then commercial zoning and R2 zoning to the north. Again, the park is to the east. There's vacant land to the south and then vacant land and some single-family homes to the west. That's an aerial photo of the site, which is in yellow. It's a vacant lot. That's the commercial greenhouses to the north, single-family homes, the park, vacant land to the south, and some single-family homes along Jeffers Road. And this is the preliminary plat for the project, showing the main axis, two of them coming off of Jeffers Road, providing future connectivity to the south, providing connectivity into the neighborhood park to the east, providing connectivity for a secondary access into Shorewood Heights, and also allowing connection to the vacant land to the north. Certainly. It shows 57 lots, with 55 lots being for duplex development, 2 lots for existing single-family homes. In terms of the rezoning, the comprehensive plan identifies the areas being appropriate for low-density residential development. The proposed R2 zoning and duplex development is considered low-density residential development by definition in the comprehensive plan text. And again, we did note the surrounding land use in our presentation. In terms of the preliminary plat, the street layout is consistent with a master plan for the street layout that was reviewed by the Plan Commission a number of years ago. We included that in your packet. When this development down at the south end of Jeffers Road, just north of the North Crossing, was proposed, the street layout was put in place for the entire area to the north. It showed the primary access into the community park at this location. It showed connectivity over into, at that time, vacant land for future development. It showed a primary access out to Jeffers Road. We also believe it's consistent with the master plan for the community park. This is a master plan that was proposed for the community park a number of years ago, again showing the primary access into the park off of Jeffers Road for what would be a parking lot, pavilions, restrooms at that location. Going back to the preliminary plat, it provides that primary access into the neighborhood park. It provides connectivity up to the Shorewood Heights neighborhood, which has a single access into that area at this time. It provides its main connections over to Jeffers Road and provides future connectivity to the south. We do believe the street system proposed with this project is consistent with that master plan that was reviewed by Plan Commission a number of years ago. The project was reviewed by the Waterways and Parks Commission. They have recommended approval of the project with the condition that Daisy Lane, which is the main access into the park, provide adequate right-of-way for a pathway on one side of it. And when we get into the report, you'll notice city engineering has recommended that be a 70-foot right-of-way for adequate room to put in that pathway. The preliminary plat also shows areas in excess of 20% slope. If you give me a second, I'll piece this together. This is the master grading plan in your packet. There's a hill up on the northwest part of the site, and parts of that hill have areas in excess of 20% slope. Normally, those areas are labeled as non-buildable. In this case, the applicant will be petitioning for a sewer service plan amendment, which is reviewed by the Department of Natural Resources to determine if they'll allow development on that area in excess of 20% slope. Past practice, the Plan Commission has allowed the Department of Natural Resources to weigh in and make that determination because it is their restriction that puts that 20% slope provision in place. It's not a city ordinance, it's a Department of Natural Resource ordinance. There has been a couple of occasions, though, where with large hillsides, the Plan Commission has weighed in and said that's not appropriate. And this might be one of those situations, although it is a relatively small hillside, it also has relatively small areas of 20% slope. We do bring it to your attention in terms of whether you should be making some call here or just leave it to the Department of Natural Resources. We put even street grades into your packet so you could see the street grades, how they're affected with this roadway. They will have a 12.6 to 13% street grade as they go up and over that hill with this project. And that does require Plan Commission approval, and you will be asked to approve that as part of this preliminary plat. This is a duplex project. They're showing a preliminary layout of those duplexes on the lots with this grading plan. Duplexes have site plans that are approved by staff. Our comprehensive plan does encourage a variety of design for new dwellings in new neighborhoods. And we would recommend a condition on this general development plan that requires a variety in duplex design, color, siding, and other features for the project that we would use as we reviewed those final site plans. The lots and setback for this project are consistent with R2 district standards. They do show outlots along the east side of the property that's underneath a power line corridor that already exists in that area, and those outlots are shown to be dedicated to the city for stormwater needs. We do have sent utility easement requests to Xcel Energy, AT&T, and cable to be shown on the final plat, and we did attach the city engineer's report. We have recommended approval of this rezoning, and we've recommended approval with conditions on the preliminary plat. Those conditions are providing adequate right-of-way for Daisy Lane, for that pathway. The DNR approval of the sewer service plan amendment for the development in those 20% slope areas. That they provide variation to design, color, siding, and other features with the final site plans for these duplexes. That they indicate the utility easements on the final plat in compliance with the recommendations in the city engineer's report. City engineer's report has conditions pertaining to entering into a development agreement for street and utility construction, providing calculations for the stormwater runoff for the sizing of the stormwater facilities in those outlots, that the street grades greater than 10% must be approved, and with this you are being asked to approve a 12.6% street grade on the west side of that hill and a 13% street grade on the east side of that hill. Increasing, again, Daisy Lane's right-of-way width to a 70 feet to accommodate a future pathway. The street names for this project would be reviewed by ComCenter and approved by council with final plats. And again, then the amendment to the sewer service area plan for the 20% slope areas. With that, I'd answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Darrell? Commissioner Peterson.
I have two. Darrell, from the old plan, it looks like there's always been a need for connectivity between Jeffers Road and Shorewood.
The issue is with Shorewood right now, and has always been there, is there's only one way to get into that residential area. Normally, the city desires 2 ways for emergency vehicle accessibility, postal service, buses, things such as that, and particularly if there's an issue with the need to close the one roadway. So that's why that idea has always been there, to provide that connectivity as the second way in.
My second question is, with the access on Daisy to the Northwest Community Park, is there any need to reserve some of Lot 30 for a right turn lane northbound on Jeffers Road? Would the traffic be that high?
Let John try that.
Our opinion at this point is no. That park is designed more for the silent sports, so to speak, for cross-country skiing, hiking. I think there'll be some biking back in there, but we don't see that as being a high-volume park like you might have at Phoenix or Carson or like that. So we don't, at this time, envision that need.
You wouldn't have a peak hour then, per se. It's going to be,
Well, there will be one, but it won't be like what we normally
okay.
see as a peak hour.
All right, thank you.
Are there any other questions for Darrell? Commissioner Klinkhammer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Tufte, in the proposal and under the analysis, you said that you attached the preliminary grading plans for the area as to how this hill will be graded, and we can discuss it with the Plan Commission tonight. Have you done that already, or are you intending to go into more detail with it?
I can get into more detail. I can give you the cross-section of the hill. That might give you a little bit more detail. I get a little concerned about explaining the engineering stuff, but John can jump up and correct me. So this is the cross-section of the hillside. And of course, it's chopped off, so it goes down the other side. But basically, if you look at it very carefully, the dashed line is the existing grade, and the solid line is the proposed grade. And you can see as it comes up and over the hill, the existing grade, they are taking about 5 to 10 feet off the top of a hill. In order to do that, the grade to the west side of the hill doesn't change much. The grade to the east side of the hill does change, and actually what they're doing is they take the hill down and push it out and fill as you get down towards the bottom to eliminate the grade. So in terms of removing the hill, they're not removing the hill. There'll still be a significant hill at the site. They are lowering the hill slightly. They're getting it graded so that they can provide these 12.6 to 13% street grades up and over the top. And then if you get into the grading plan more, they actually show how they grade out building pads for each of these duplexes as they go up and over the top of that hill. And these are buildable with these regrading. They will need retaining walls between each of the duplexes to make it work, and those will have to be engineered and approved by an engineer as they develop those things going up and over the top. So it's a reasonable grading plan that they're showing here in terms of it can be done, it can work. And they'll have to present all this to the DNR, and the DNR is the one that typically signs off on these grading plans as part of their review of this amendment to the sewer service area plans. I don't know if John wanted to add anything more to that, but that's the best I can do as in terms of my view of the grading plan.
But on that slide that shows the areas of 20% grade there, what happens at the lot line on the north as it goes down the hill on the
Up this way?
Yeah.
They'll have to feather that out into that property. Again, the most they're going to have to deal with is 5 to 10 feet. They may need to have some retaining walls on the back or feather it out into that property. A duplex typically has a 25-foot or greater setback from that back lot line, so there's usually enough room to feather out 5 to 10 feet. So it just kind of disappears.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other questions for Darrell? At this time, I don't see any. Would the applicant like to come forward?
Good evening. Cody Philipsak, 9305 Murphy Lane, C&M Properties. I feel like I was just in here a few weeks ago. But I'm very excited about this development. I think it's going to be a great development. It's actually going to be twin homes. We're selling all of these as twin homes, just zoning them as a duplexes because it makes it easier when we go to sell the unit if someone buys both sides and keeps one, or just with the lot lines to replat it at that time, makes it a lot easier. But we've been doing twin homes since the mid-2000s and have sold a lot of units, of up over 180 since 2011. They're very, very popular in the Chippewa Valley now. We have 4 plan styles, our Kennedy, Princeton, Jefferson, and Max plans, and are able to provide an affordable property with very high quality products. So we kind of have a system put out, and it works really well. And you know, if any of you guys have been through our development by the Country Club in Altoona, it just went fast, and there's a ton of people that want it. What we're able to do at that with the twin homes is custom cabinets, custom trim works. All the garage doors are carriage wood grain style garage doors, all very nice exteriors, very energy efficient. Our buildings make the top 10% in the state of Wisconsin. So a lot of quality finishes under 200,000, which makes them obviously extremely popular. A lot of demographics buying these. Empty nesters is the big one, obviously, but then there's a lot of young professionals. You know, I talked last time I was in about the LaSalle project and all these people that are contacting us about moving to Eau Claire, and that was just 2 weeks ago, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago. Since then, I've had 4 more that have contacted me and I've met with. I mean, Eau Claire's just kind of blowing up, and we need housing, and this provides another type of housing where you don't, you know, like a LaSalle project, you're getting the families moving in with the kids, and this is giving more the empty nesters or the first time home buyers that are coming in and buying, and all those people are going to be moving up. So I think it's a very good product. I think it's also a great location for twin homes. You know, to the south, we have the high-density multifamily, and then to the north, we have plant marketing. You're not going to put single-family houses in here. You're not going to put any type of development that isn't going to be some type of multifamily. So I think twin homes is the best option for this. We're going to provide the 2 access points to the Northwestern Park, which I think is a huge benefit, and then also into the Shorewood Heights development. One of the access points is going to have a 10-foot bike trail. Very excited about that. I think it's going to be nice for the development too, and all the people living in there. I've been talking to Jay with the Chippewa Valley Off-Road Bike Association, and have agreed we'll look at some type of option with putting a hammerhead on Daisy Lane with some type of parking lot, and we would do that at our expense, whether it's clearing or whatever, and to help them get some parking, because I know he's said they've struggled with having any type of parking in their access to the park. So, you know, it's a benefit for us too in the development. So I think it's, you know, I know we'll build a beautiful development. We do a lot of extra landscaping throughout the development. All the buildings will be fully landscaped. We put trees in all the yards, trees in all the boulevards, and I know it'll be a nice development. So I hope I have your support.
Are there any questions for the applicant? I have one.
I do.
Oh, Commissioner Mitchell.
Thank you. Do you have any concerns with the recommendations, the engineers or the
Nope,
cities?
not at all. I don't. everything, that the hill, and Sean, the engineer can talk better to this with the steep slopes, but we've dealt with that in so many developments. And you walk up that hill, it really isn't too drastic. It's not like we're gonna be cutting this huge mountain down and all of a sudden it's gonna push all the fill out to the sides or anything. It really isn't too bad. So no, none of the recommendations. We already do 4 different plans. All of our colors, we rotate the colors, the styles, everything. And a lot of these come in from past experience. Most of these are selling before they're built. So a lot of people are coming in and adding sun porches and different parts. And really, I figured out the average price after we finished our Clubview development, and it ended up being just under $200,000. Our average sale price was $176, I believe, and the average list price was the $176. The average sale price ends up being right around $200,000. So a lot of people are adding to them.
May I ask one more?
Yes.
And have you had conversations yet with the DNR?
I haven't. I don't know if Sean has. He could speak to that. I'm sure he's sent it out to them.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for the applicant? Commissioner Klinkhammer.
Thank you again. Mr. Flipsack, in the Altoona development near the country club, you talk about having 4 different models in this development. How many did you use in that development?
4.
Same?
Yep.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? I have one, but it's kind of funny. So Willow Lane is going to be also an entrance into Northwestern Park, correct? It will provide an access point? Both Willow and Daisy, or just Daisy?
From what I understand, just Daisy is
Okay.
what the plan was. I mean, it could, I think Willow could be too, but
Okay.
but it's
not planned that way at this point?
right. Yep.
Okay.
When we talked to the city, that was all they wanted, because that's what it showed on from what I understand. I don't know, John, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the original plan just showed one in the middle. It didn't show anything on the north. I think it would make sense to have them both kind of connected, but
This map confused
It's
me.
upside down. There we go. Daisy Lane would come through here into this parking lot. That
Okay,
other little hook is going to be kind of up in here, so it goes through the park, but it really isn't.
okay, so it's
There's no
just really a
parking, there's no
corner.
amenities there.
Okay,
It just
all right.
passes through.
Okay. My concern was with Willow with that hill in terms of sight lines and kids on bikes and stuff like that. But if it's not really going to provide a park access, it doesn't make any difference. Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? I don't see any.
Okay.
We may require you to come forward and answer any questions later on. Okay?
Thank
you. Yeah. Oh, Commissioner Klinkhammer.
I would have a question of Mr. Jensko, please. In the documents here regarding the grade, the 13-degree grade, it referenced the slope on Bullis Farm Road,
Yes.
on that one that's fairly steep section. What is the grade on that road?
I believe Bullis Farm, right where it leaves Keystone Crossing, and it goes up the hill and then down, right there where South
Right.
Oak Hills Parkway comes in.
Mhm.
Those are 12% slopes. And then the slope going up Southwood Hills Parkway through Briarcrest, which was on a Cody's developments, was also at 12%.
Thank
So
you.
these are in that range. Out in Princeton Valley, there's some roads that are up to 15% going up those bluffs.
Thank you.
Okay, you can come forward.
Good evening, Sean Bohan, 1105 Elm Avenue West, Menominee. I'm the engineer on the project for Advanced Engineering Concepts. Sorry. I'm the engineer on the project with Advanced Engineering Concepts. I've come up to basically talk about two things. One of them ended up being the right-of-way on Daisy Lane, and the other just ended up being the grades and stuff that would end up being on Willow. We're looking at, I know I've talked with John, and I've talked with Cody a little bit. It's pretty tight on, as far as like the size of the lots, the setbacks. The 70-foot, we were looking to try to get it down to 66 feet. We would still be able to have the bike trail within that 66 feet. We'd end up having boulevards that would end up being 7 feet instead of the 8.5. So that's one thing. We do end up having that on Clubview Lane. So if you're driving through the Altoona subdivision, we do end up having the bike trail. It's an 8-foot bike trail, falls within the right-of-way. We have sidewalk on the other side, and we have the 66-foot right-of-way. It's worked really well for the city. They haven't had any complaints as far as enough boulevard for snow storage also. And then the second would end up being just the grades that would be on Willow. We have gone through this process a couple times in the city of Eau Claire. One of them, John had mentioned on Briar and on South, like Oakwood Hills Parkway. As far as the slopes, we did go through the process with the DNR. We have not started that with this as of yet. Until we end up getting a preliminary plat. We also have to go through a couple of steps before that. We have to end up having the city not objecting to it, and then we also have to go to Western Wisconsin Regional Planning when we end up sending in for like a sewer service and stuff, and we end up needing them to approve it also before it's sent to the DNR. So there's not really a preliminary step for us to end up getting like, preliminary approval and stuff from the DNR. But we do realize we have to take that step, and that we have to end up going through that. And then one other item would end up being just the grades of the homes. Some of these buildings will end up having walkouts out the back, so it certainly helps you out when we're going into the hill. We're trying to minimize the cutting of the hill, and that's why we're going up the 12% or coming down the 12%, going up the 13.5%. Is that we're just trying to end up having less impact on the actual top of it, of cutting it down 10, 12 feet. So on the top, we're cutting it, I believe, about 6, 7 feet. And as we start to go down the hill, some of these buildings end up becoming walkouts, so the back side of them, basically drop out with a walkout like 9 feet to 10 feet. So it really helps us feather that in when it gets close to the property lines. So you don't end up having retaining walls at the back side of the buildings. You might end up having them on the sides, very similar to what you would end up seeing out at Oakwood Hills. If you end up driving those roads and stuff like that, a lot of those buildings will end up having retaining walls between the homes.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what we envision, through this section. And it impacts, I believe, probably about 9 of the lots. So it's not, the whole stretch through here. We basically have about 9 lots that we'd end up having pretty similar to the South Oakwood Hills Parkway area. So with that, I'm here to answer any questions, and if you guys want me to come up later on and stuff like that, if there's certain questions engineering-wise, feel free to call me up.
Okay. Are there any questions for the engineer? I don't see any, but I have one. I'm familiar with the hills in Oakwood Hills, okay, and they're probably several hundred feet long.
Mm-hmm.
How long is this hill from the upslope and the downslope?
I think I end up having, let's see here. Probably by the time we end up coming back down and flattening out, you're looking at probably about 900 feet.
Okay,
And that's going from up to the top and then back down.
okay, all right. So it's not a hump,
It is a hump,
but you'll
but
flatten it
it's
out
over
some.
900 feet, yes.
Okay, all right, sounds good. That was the only question I had. Any other questions for the engineer? I don't see anything at this point.
All right, thank you.
You bet. This is a public hearing, so we will open it up to the public. Make sure to bring your yellow slip of paper and hand it to Ned before you speak. Please introduce yourself with your name and your address.
I'm a little nervous here. My name is William LaRose. I live at 4909 Jeffers Road, and I do have property that borderlines their area. And anyway, we do have a wetland back in there, so the DNR has got to come and give them probably the okay for a few of them lots back there where the city owns. Second of all, what's happening, we're getting too many multi-planning back there. If they do something like Stephanie Road, where they're all residential, there's 20 of them up in there, and they're beautiful homes. I'm not gotten on C&M, they do a wonderful job in their building and stuff like this, but the whole thing is, we're getting to be, the city of Eau Claire and the contractors are getting greedy. It's a money game, okay? So you take your pencils out now, and you figure this out. There's 55 lots, okay? Now you take that times 2 people per house, and it'll be more than that because of families. And there's a safety factor there. Jeffrey Road cannot handle that much more traffic. And for the kids, for playing or whatever, possibility there could be a safety factor there too, because there's no sidewalk, there's nothing there. So I feel at this time that our board of the city of Eau Claire and C&M, I think C&M is getting greedy because they're already planning on taking care of that hill, okay? What's that? What does that do for that corporation? It's money in their pocket. So it's a money game. So I feel at this time, if they'd go all residential, I'd go along with it if they'd do something like they done up with Stephanie Road. But until then, I feel that our city board should say no, because it's a greed thing. You gotta start watching out for the common people. Thank you. Any questions?
Are there any questions for the speaker? I don't see anything. Thank you for coming forward.
Okay. Hi, I'm Cheryl LaRose. I'm married to William, and we live at 4909 Jeffers Road. And with this development, it's a good thing. It's a good thing for the city and for people purchasing new homes. But we feel that being an R1 would be the way to go, to set it up like they have back in that, Shorewood area in the back there, which are single families, because there's 55 lots that they want to develop into twin homes. So if you have twin homes, that's 110 homes. So you've got only supposedly one access out Main Road, which would be either
Willow or Daisy.
Daisy for sure, maybe Willow, but that's a lot of people in 28 acres, because that's all there is, with 110 homes. 55 if you hook them together, which that's what they want to do. I do not think that is a good thing for Jeffers Road. Jeffers Road is a really, really busy road right now, because it is the bypass of the west side of Eau Claire. We have the east side bypass, 53, and I'll tell you, Jeffers Road is the west side bypass, because everybody takes that shortcut to Chippewa to work, Chippewa to Eau Claire to work. Plus we get a lot of traffic with trucks on that road also. Plus we have a lot of haulers that haul brush out to the community waste site. Now we have the ballpark out there. It's beautiful, the ballpark. And if they did develop this area here with C&M, would they put an underground walk-through for kids on bikes to get across that road? Because at this time, that road is at 35 miles an hour, and we've had the police department out there with their electronic device to monitor speed on that road. And we've had so many people picked up on Jeffers Road for over the speed. Because I know what it's like when you go up over the hill, you're coming into town and you see the light turn green, and it's it just every now and then, like I say, the cars along there and the trucks, the traffic is getting heavy. And we've lived there 9 years now, so going on 10. And there's no shoulder on Jeffers Road besides. And I hear a lot of remarks from the bikers that go out there, so now they're all wearing neon green. So people see them on the bikes at night, evening, whatever. But there are certain times in the day, in the morning, from say 6:30 till probably 7:45, it's really busy there, and then from 5 o'clock till probably 6:30, that road is really heavy with traffic. So I don't know how this one, and, you know, for people coming and going out of this area that's going to be developed, but that's a lot of family homes, that's too much in one small area. I think they should spread it out a little bit more. But I highly go with the one family dwelling, it's fine. But no more than that.
Are there any questions for the speaker? I don't see any. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you all.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Ashley Adams, and I reside at 5531 Benjamin Street. My husband and I, along with our 2 sons, live in the Shorewood Heights subdivision. Finding a neighborhood like Shorewood Heights was what made our decision to stay in Eau Claire so easy. From the moment we first drove through the quiet streets, we knew we wanted to find a home there. There are 52 single-family homes in the Shorewood Heights subdivision. We are here tonight as concerned citizens opposed to the access road for the duplex development at Shorewood Heights Parkway. Of the 81 subdivision residents we were able to connect with, 100% of them oppose the access road at Shorewood Heights Parkway. These residents represent 79% of the Shorewood Heights neighborhood. Given more time, I'm confident the majority of the remaining residents would sign this petition as well. During the time I spent going door to door talking with my neighbors, it quickly became apparent to me that one of the key reasons that people chose our neighborhood was the allure of a single outlet community, a quiet neighborhood with limited traffic where we can be comfortable letting our children go out and play. One of the values of the City of Eau Claire is environmental sustainability. What message is the city sending to residents if they are willing to eliminate a portion of the Northwest Community Park for an access road to a duplex development? Thank you for your time.
Are there any questions for the speaker? I don't see any. Thank you. Oh, would you? Pardon? There should be no applause during a public hearing. Please note that.
Hi, my name is Dan Peterson. I'm a long-term resident in that area. We live at the very end of Shorewood Drive, and my wife grew up down that area, and we've seen an increase over the years in, development and pedestrian and bike traffic. And I guess what I'd like to point out is the City of Eau Claire has spent a lot of money to make the downtown area bike and pedestrian friendly. But this is starting to be a pretty big development out there with no bike or pedestrian access to the downtown. Jeffers Road, like the previous speaker said, it's difficult. I mean, I ride bike. There's certain times of the day I just won't even go out because of the traffic on that road. And I think this might be a good time to really revisit that whole thing. And once you get on the south side of the North Crossing, Jeffers Road is wide enough. I mean, it's fine. But the north side to the county line is, I mean, it's just a gravel shoulder. I mean, if you're on a bike, without mountain bike tires, you're taking your life in your hands if you have to get off the road. And I don't really even see walkers on that road anymore because I think people have given up. There's the Ball Diamond to the west at the very end. And to think that this city is building a bike park without legitimate bike access from the downtown area, I think that just might be something that you guys should consider.
I think the traffic engineer would like to answer that question once you're finished.
Okay, I'm finished. Yep, sounds good. Yeah.
It's come up several times now.
Okay.
But it should be noted that the city does have a project plan for 2020 for Jeffers Road, which will improve the road. It'll include a multi-use trail. And so, that's 3 years out. So we recognize how bad it is. And really, you do kind of take your life in your hands now when you go walking or biking along Jeffers Road. So we recognize that, and there is a project planned.
Okay.
2020.
Thank you. That's good to know.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I learn something every meeting.
That's good. That's
All
a good
right.
deal.
Commissioner Peterson.
Can I get John back up here? the previous speaker, I was going to address this question too, but in your engineering opinion, how much traffic from this subdivision do you think is going to use Shoreward Heights Parkway or Kate Lane or Benjamin Street?
Good question. I started to answer before I fully heard. Did you say how much of this new subdivision or how much of the Shorewood Heights would use these?
How much of the new subdivision?
I would argue that nobody from the new subdivision would go back through Shorewood Heights. That would be way out of their way to go anywhere. That connection is more for the residents of Shorewood Heights to have a secondary access. There may be people from the Shorewood Heights subdivision that cut through this new subdivision to get out to Jeffers Road. But I don't envision many people from this new subdivision would go out through Shorewood Heights down to Shorewood to get back to Jeffers Road.
Thank you.
Bruce Frederickson, 605 Katy Lane, which is in the Shorewood Heights community. Prior to my retiring from the Army in 2010, I was stationed in Germany, and our family looked for a location, a quiet neighborhood, and it was the Shorewood Heights that, because of that drew us to there. We loved the fact that it was cul-de-sacs and just the one entrance. So I've lived there since 2009. We've never had any problem getting trucks in and out of there, snow plows or anything like that. It's all new utilities on the street. To the gentleman that spoke first here, can't remember your name, sir.
Daryl.
So my objection is single focused. I'm not against developing back there, but it's adding a street down at the end. So I would ask the planners come up with a alternate to that, and the neighborhood of Shorewood Heights is overwhelmingly opposed to adding on to that street down there. So I would ask you to give consideration of that.
So you do not want a connection between the new Willow Lane and?
We don't need a second point of entry into that neighborhood.
Okay.
I've never seen snow plows have problems getting in and out of there, or mail trucks or anything else, the gentleman addressed here.
Very often that becomes an issue for emergency vehicles too. But I will let the traffic engineer address that when you're completed.
Thank you.
My response to that is that he's probably correct at this point. Those are new streets, new utilities. But as you point out, emergency access, where the problem will happen is if we get a water main break, if we have to do a sewer repair, if there's a gas main break, anything like that that shuts down Shorewood.
Trap everybody.
Well, this probably shows it about the best, but Shorewood is right here, and this is the only way in. And so any repair here or on Shorewood is going to lock this whole area out. Last summer, when the twin homes were being built here on just off of Jeffers Road, just south of Shorewood, and there was some construction going on through there, that was a mess. And they provided a bypass route. Not a very good one, but there was a way to get around. Imagine this all developed and not the ability to do that. Everybody down here would be locked out. And so that's the reason for the secondary access.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Hi, my name's Kathy Ryder. I live at 6251 Aspen Meadow Court, and I'm concerned that having an access road go both from the Shorewood Heights neighborhood in and through the park, and also hooked up with this new development, is not a good idea. You've heard, I won't go over all the reasons that you've just heard from other people. I also want to make a point that not many neighborhoods in the area have two access roads. I lived in the Country Meadows apartments and area just south of where the development will be taking place. There's been one access road there for years. That's high-density neighborhood, and no one seems concerned about that. Apparently, there are plans to hook up, make that connectivity with continuing out of that neighborhood over to this neighborhood and perhaps one in between. That could be a really good link. Take care of access for both the Country Meadows area and for this new one. I'm worried about the numbers. As other people have spoken about Jeffers Road not being able to handle it, I am very pleased to hear that there's a plan for 2020, but that's 3 years away. We need something now, and I know C&M Builders will get right on it, and we'll have more twin homes by spring. The numbers there, if it's 55 lots, that's 110 units, that's 220 new cars. We have 2 cars per unit, which is a possibility. That's a lot of added traffic. And my third concern is mostly diversity. I don't know if you've driven around the country club area in Altoona with all the new twin homes, or I actually own one of the new twin homes, a C&M twin home in Aspen Meadows area. They're beautiful. They are wonderful. I can't complain a bit about the quality. However, yes, there are 4 models. In our development, it turned out there are only 2 used. There are 4 colors. They all look very much alike. And if you travel around the country club area in Altoona, you'll see how close together they are, how cookie cutter-ish it looks. Yes, people add on their own things inside, and some have sunrooms in the back, but I really appreciate in my little neighborhood of Aspen Meadows, we only have 1 street of 36 units. We have another street next to us that are single-family homes, and it is a much more normal type of neighborhood. I don't like using that word, but it's diverse. I appreciate that. And I think that if we were to have 110 units, all alike, I can understand Cody saying that there's a need for them, because yes, I am an empty nester and I bought one, and I agree, but I don't think that they should be all there in one place. If he could intersperse some single-family homes, I think it would add a lot. It would also cut down in the numbers of cars, traffic, until we get to 2020, and it looks like development will continue in some of those other adjacent areas, so it's only going to keep building and building. And that's all. Thank you.
Are there any questions for the speaker? I don't see any. Oh, Commissioner Mitchell.
So regarding the 2 access points, is the concern that there will be a lot of traffic in your neighborhood? What is the concern about the second access point?
I don't live in that neighborhood, but what I hear is the park will be right there. So people will be using that as an entrance into the park. And it's just not as safe when you are used to having a cul-de-sac there and living on a cul-de-sac. And now it will be a cut-through. That's my perspective. Now maybe other people could speak to it a little better.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this issue? Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this issue? You can pull the microphone down. So.
Thank you. You think I'm short? Good evening. I'm Janet Sobronic. I live at 5323 Shorewood Heights Parkway. I live really at the end of the cul-de-sac. There's one house beyond our house. My husband Ben is here with me. And we do object to the thoroughfare. We already have people parking down at our end of the street in order to use the bicycle to park, which is nice, which is fine. But if we now have a thoroughfare, we know that we're going to be having a lot more traffic and a lot more parking down there just for the thoroughfare. I think my major concern is really changing it from R1 to R2. We are actually a single-family development of 50-some houses, and we're right in that neighborhood. And there's no problem having single-family houses there, but our problem is that we have so much R2 development that's been going on out there. Just to the north of Shorewood Heights Parkway development is all duplexes. Just to the north and to the west is all the twin home development. Just to the south of us, of course, there's Jeffers Road that maybe has, let's say, 12 houses on it. But just to the south then, we have the large multifamily development down there, which is duplexes and apartment buildings. And then if you go south of the North Crossing, there's a lot of duplex down in there too, which seems to me that we have more than our fair share in our little northwestern corner of Eau Claire of duplexes. And I would like to see some single-family housing going in instead of duplexes. Thank you.
Are there any questions for the speaker? I don't see anything.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Andy Akish. I live at 5312 Shorewood Heights Parkway. I guess my biggest concern is the thoroughfare. I don't think it's needed, as you've heard. Most of the neighborhood objects to it. Like we could probably get 100%, I feel. My other concern is just in development in general in this area, where the kid's going to go to school. Roosevelt is, if some of you don't know, is pretty much at capacity. And if you add 110 and possibly more families to that area, not all of them have kids, but some will, and younger kids in the demographics that buy the twin homes are going to need a place to go. And with the school sizes, the classroom sizes at 25 to 27 kids, that's getting up there with no plan to expand that school in the near future that I'm aware of. So I guess that's about it.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the speaker? I don't see any. Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak?
Cheryl LaRose again, and I just have another question for C&M Builders. We live south of the development that's going to happen here. And on that development, on the southern part of Daisy Lane, there's called the Bluebell Lane. And there's twin homes there of 5 of them, which equal to 10 if they're twin homes. And our land from Jeffers Road that we own butts up against the backs of those properties, of those lots. So what kind of an outlot do I have to buffer my land from these houses, from these twin homes? They're talking about the twin homes on the, from Daisy Lane over to the outlots, which would be to the east on Hobbs Street. That they would have these outlots, lot 3 and 2, but over on this Bluebell Lane, these 10 homes, 5 twin homes, their backyards would be on our lot line. So what kind of a buffer do I have for an outlot as a homeowner?
Daryl, do you want to speak?
The outlots on the east side of that project are for stormwater. They're not for buffering. And power lines.
Okay, yeah, because the power lines go through there. So then, how far from the back of these twin homes to the lot line?
There's a minimum of a 25-foot setback requirement. for the building.
25 feet.
It can be more depending on lot depth.
I'm just, okay. Okay. Well, that's what I wanted to know. Like I say, how far they will go back from there. All right, thank you.
Are there any questions for the speaker? I don't see anything, thank you.
Okay.
Is there one last speaker?
Hi, my name is Jennifer Peterson. I live at 107 Vale Lane. We've lived out there since 2000, which is off of Shorewood Drive, so we've seen lots and lots of development coming, faster than you can shake a stick at. I just want to echo that I'm also opposed. Our family has had property out there since around the 1950s, and so you can always expect change, but it seems like we're moving forward so quickly with so many of these dwellings that are very dense. And it's really changed the character already. And I am glad to hear about the project as well for 2020. I have stopped biking, and I don't walk anymore on Jeffers Road because I am afraid to. And it doesn't really matter what time of day it is anymore. It used to be you could avoid that. So I would agree that maybe this isn't the forum for it, but I don't think we can wait that long. I think about somebody getting killed. There's no way for kids to get to the baseball field. That just doesn't even seem correct, right? I'd like to just, one more point is just echo that I'm for at least interspersing some single-family homes, and that I think that we need to just pause and think about this before just plunging ahead with another big, dense development. Thank you.
Are there any questions for the speaker? I don't see anything. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dan Adams. I'm actually Ashley Adams' husband. You asked a question about what's the problem with the through road. One of the things is when the buses come into our neighborhood, there's one point. So all the kids in all the neighborhood are going to have to cross that through road. So there's another danger there, and that's, besides the fact of, living in that community, so your kids can just go throughout the entire area without worrying about through traffic. Well, the added thing is when those kids get on the bus stops at one point. So all those kids have to cross that road on the east side of that development. Or, sorry, the east side of, what's the road that's going to go through? Shorewood Drive. So, and I don't know how many houses that is, but it'd be quite a few. So, there's a danger of the through road. You asked a good question, what's the problem with that? And that would be a main concern of mine. So, just thought I'd let you know.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak?
I'm John Bielefeld at 5441 Benjamin Street. I just have a very simple question. I've heard duplexes and I've heard twin homes. Is it going to be, which one is it going to be? Is it going to be one or the other or both? That's my question.
In this case, I think it would be good for the developer to come up and give us a definitive answer on that.
As I said, we're zoning them as duplexes, so we have the option as we go through and to get the lot lines right down the center, to also give each unit owner, we have a lot of unit owners that want to owner occupy these, buy one and rent the other one, or let their parents live there, whatever the case may be. So we're doing it as duplexes, and then at the time of the sale, we will convert it to a twin home.
Okay, so each lot will contain one duplex unit. Someone who's purchasing it can buy both units or one unit. If they purchase an individual unit as a twin home, it would then create its own legal description.
Correct,
Okay.
correct,
Okay,
correct.
sounds
And
good.
also, it's a lot safer to do it at that time, it's hard to get a building right down the center, so it's a lot easier to go at the time of the sale and replat it at that time and survey it at that time to hit it right in the middle. So you don't 5-10 years from now have issues where someone surveys it and you see that it's a little bit off. I just think it's a lot safer.
Okay. I will ask you one question then. In the twin homes that you've already purchased, how often have you needed to rent it out as a duplex? Are almost all of the units pre-sold as twin homes, or how has that
For the most part, in Aspen, where the woman that got up here and talked earlier, which actually has way more than just single families and twin homes. There's also actually 4 units and 6 units and stuff like that by there too. So there is a lot higher density. In there, of the 36 units, I think 25 of them have sold and the rest of them are rented. Some owner-occupied rentals, some we still own as rentals.
Okay.
We rent to a lot of people that we build for, and then we'll just sell it at different times.
Sure, okay. So they have a place to go while their new house is under construction?
Yep, exactly.
Okay, thank you. I think that sheds a little light.
Any other questions? And the one comment I'd like to make on the single family, I've heard the single family over and over. I'm going to be honest, this isn't the most desirable area. It really isn't. It's, Shorewood is a nice development, but we have a factory right to the north and very high density right to the south. Something like Twin Homes that's kind of a medium density, I think is the best fit here. If there was I love diversity and I love having a lot of different options. That's why I love the Altoona development and being able to do that. But in a case like this, if this was single families, these lots would never sell. They just won't. Where they're at, they won't. And I would invite anyone here to buy it and try to develop it and do that.
Yeah.
So, I know that's the question that you guys are faced with, but honest to God, there's no way this would sell as single families.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Comment first, I think Shorewood Heights is residential R1, and that's sold very well.
Yes.
So I don't quite understand his comment there. It would be nice to have some assurance that these could not be used as duplexes, that they would strictly be twin homes if they must be built. So someone cannot purchase them and I'll rent this one out, or I'll buy another one and rent that one out. Pretty soon you've got a lot of duplexes there, rentals, and that can be very detrimental to people's investment in their homes.
Daryl?
The city zoning authority cannot do that. That's unconstitutional. For example, I own a single-family home. If I want to rent my house, I can rent that. It's the same as a duplex. We cannot regulate the ownership or the rental of property. All we regulate is it's a duplex.
Yeah, actually, a single home is not the same as a duplex.
But
in that sense that you can rent it, it would
I can
be,
rent
yes.
it, and it's the same as they can rent duplex.
But we all know what sometimes duplexes can look like. Those neighborhoods, after 10 or 15 years, they get pretty run down, and people don't appreciate their property to some extent. I've lived in those areas, and I've owned a duplex, and I know. Anyway, those are my comments, and it sure would be nice, if they have to be built. I guess I'd rather have R1 than this situation where they could be used as duplexes also. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for the speaker?
Hi, I'm Joan Radke. I'm 5613 Shorewood Heights Parkway, and I can't leave this meeting without refuting what that developer said. We're probably one of the newer people into the neighborhood. We moved about 16 months ago from Minneapolis, retired here, moved here to be with one of our daughters. That neighborhood of Shorewood Heights is phenomenal. It's beautiful houses. They're well kept up. Everybody does their yard. Everybody's friendly. The kids, our grandkids could play and not have to worry. So for him to say that nobody is going to want a single-family home in that area is crazy, because we looked all over Eau Claire. We found Shorewood Heights, and we loved it immediately. So he's crazy. You can't believe what he's saying.
Thank you for your comment.
Hello. My name is Julie Newhouse, and I live at 5302 Shorewood Heights Parkway. We would be the lot at the very end of that street, of which they are proposing to make a through access. And I don't want to repeat things that other persons have said, but I do think that we all are in agreement with our neighborhood in regards to the R1 versus R2 zoning, that we are against that. And we really feel that the through road would be a detriment to all of the area for a couple of reasons. We feel that vehicle traffic through that area would not work well with the families that we have living in our neighborhood. Additionally, when the comment was made that there needed to be another access, the only time that the access to our neighborhood has been an issue was because they were building other twin homes at the time, and the construction of those twin homes made the access to our neighborhood impassable. And that wasn't due to any other natural issues or things that occurred other than more duplexes being built. I also feel that, you know, if you want to make an access into the park as far as a walking trail, biking trail, something like that, but please do not put a street access through the park and to access the new development. Thank you for listening. And I just want to make it clear also that all of our neighborhood then has a petition signed by 81 of our neighborhood members indicating that we are against the through access road. And like others have said, we could get more signatures as well if we had more time. Thank you.
Okay, are there any questions before you walk away for the speaker? I don't see any. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dan Peterson, 107 Vale Lane. I just wanted to make a comment about the twin homes platting, is that I'm aware of a subdivision on the south side of Eau Claire in the town of Brunswick that Dave Graziano developed, that he platted the whole thing as twin homes. So it was developed, platted, and built as twin homes, so it isn't impossible to do it that way. And I don't think that would prohibit anyone from renting their home because you own half the building. I didn't know if anyone was aware of that. That subdivision down there. I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Are there any questions?
Again, I want to clarify what the developer is saying. If you could plat this whole thing as twin homes, the problem it creates is lining up that lot line right down the middle of that building. So what he's saying is he's going to plat it as duplexes, and then when he knows here's the building that's going on the property, he does a certified survey map and splits the lot in two at that time so he can match the middle of the building.
True. I was pointing out that it can be done both ways, and that does not prohibit someone from buying both lots if they choose to rent it, yes.
Okay, thank you. If there are no further comments, we will close the public hearing, and I'd be looking for a motion.
I move for approval with staff recommendation.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I don't see any discussion. Oh, Commissioner Brenholz.
Appreciate everybody's comments, and including from the developer. I got to admit, I'm concerned about this going from R1 to R2. I'm concerned about the density. I do support a second access into Shorewood. Believe that's something that's important, but at this point, I'll be voting no.
Any other comments? Commissioner Peterson.
Being a retired engineer and working with traffic, I actually had single-family dwelling that I built 25 years ago. 15 years ago, they proposed closing a street which would only allow me one access. I oppose closing this street. It's not a throughway, but it's a second access for me to get out. As far as this area being next to Jeffers Road, you're probably not going to get single-family dwellings next to a highway with that much traffic. So I think R2 is the right way to go, and I'm going to be voting in favor of this.
Commissioner Radabella.
Yeah, the discussion on the through road reminds me a lot of, I think it's Whispering Meadows over by Robbins. And at that point, the neighbors were all concerned that this subdivision would then create traffic for them, but it's quite the opposite. The traffic comes through the new subdivision, you know, in the multiple different directions. So if staff recommended it, I think that's the right way to go, and I think the zoning is appropriate. I'm going to support it.
Is there any other discussion? If not, I will call the question. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, next item on our agenda for public hearing for recommendation.
Oh, they got rich again, didn't they?
Public zoning, Fire Station Number 10, 820 Malden Avenue.
Got them ready.
Yes.
Well, I never seen anything of this in my
Pardon?
goddamn life.
Oh, did I miss it? Oh, I'm sorry, I missed it. All right, sorry, back up on the agenda. Public hearing for final action, conditional use permit for 2221 Highland Avenue.
Good evening. Signart and Goldridge Properties are requesting a conditional use permit to allow for the modification of an existing pole sign that would exceed 200 square feet in size for the East Ridge Shopping Center located at 2221 Highland Avenue. This is the location of the shopping center here with Highland Avenue to the north, Fairfax to the east, and then South Hastings Way located in this area here. And then this is an aerial of the property with the shopping center here with the actual building located on the east portion, parking lot over in this area, Highland Avenue to the north, Fairfax and South Hastings Way. The actual sign that we're referring to or talking about is located right at this location right here. The sign code provides for allowance for ground signs in C3 and C3P districts such as this to exceed 200 square feet up to 400 square feet if the Plan Commission approves a conditional use permit. The existing sign is located to the west of the East Ridge Center, as I mentioned, right located here. Was constructed back in 1985. It's about 500 square feet in size and is non-conforming under our current standards. This is a photograph of the existing sign located here. The sign is set back at a 70-foot setback, which conforms with the code for that area, and its height is about 38 to 39 feet, which also conforms with the height in that particular area. The proposed signs after modifications, this would be the proposed sign here, would have a size of 400 square feet. The top cabinet would be about 144 square feet. The bottom cabinet would be 256 square feet. The overall height would be 37 feet, so slightly lower than what the current sign is located. Shown, the sign would identify East Ridge Center and then provide multiple tenant listings for the businesses that are located within the shopping center. In review of the conditional use permit, the sign code provides criteria that the Plan Commission should consider, and those criteria are included in your packet. The shopping center itself, the area of the shopping center is shown here, is about 8 acres in size. It has about 450 feet of frontage along South Hastings Way, and the shopping center itself is over 130,000 square feet in area. The Plan Commission did approve a similar conditional use for a shopping center located at 1417 South Hastings Way, so just to the south of this, back in November. And that's where the Dunkin' Donuts is going in Sherwin-Williams. That request was to replace an existing pole sign with a new sign. That sign was about 384 square feet in size. We recommend approval of the conditional use permit, noting that the sign appears to be compatible with the scale of the building and the signs in the area. The parcel has substantial street frontage along South Hastings Way, and the sign would be set back further than the standard 20-foot setback. It's back at 70 feet. With that, if you have any questions.
Are there any questions for Pat? I don't see any. Is the applicant here?
Hi, Matt Snyder. I'm representing Sign Art, 2933 Mondovi Road. And I guess, you know, the sign's going to take about 100 square foot reduction from what's currently there. The sign has exceeded its life expectancy, I think. You know, it's just starting to be more of an eyesore than anything else. You know, we'll be lighting the new sign with LED lighting. We'll probably have about a 70% reduction in power consumption. It just really clean up the whole look. I think it's important to have the 400 square feet of space for the multiple tenants that occupy the shopping center. This would give space for 2 anchor tenants up top, and then we'd have 16 tenant panels in the lower cabinet. And the, you know, occupancy fluctuates in the East Ridge Center, but I'd say there's about 30 tenant spaces in there on average.
So not everybody gets a space on the sign necessarily.
They do not. That's a lease negotiation between Goldridge and the tenants.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant? I don't see any. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this issue? It is a public hearing. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this issue? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing, and I'd be looking for a motion. Commissioner Peterson.
I'll make a motion approving it with the landscaping as required by code.
Second.
And we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Now we'll go to number 3. Public hearing for recommendation, public zoning, fire station number 10, 820 Malden Avenue.
This is the site off of Birch at Malden Avenue, vacant commercial to the north, R1 both on the east and west side, industrial across the road to the south. And an aerial photo showing single-family homes. This is a church, and then vacant north and south. It's the site plan then for the project, showing the layout with, you come in with the fire trucks around the back, exit out, and then the staff and visitor parking, the building in the middle. Floor plans. Elevations. And up. The pretty picture. Plan Commission recommend and council approve the P-Public zoning for this property with a general development plan showing 3 options for locating this fire station. We did attach that report and it is in your packet. The northern option is the proposed site for this final site plan based on the cost for soil remediation with the other sites. We put those cost estimates also within your packet. This is a 14,373 square foot fire station. It has 22 parking stalls. They're basically needed for employee and visitor needs. They do show a 57.25 foot access drive out onto Malden Drive, which will require Plan Commission approval. That's the exiting for the fire trucks. We did put in the report the provisions for your consideration for those wider access drives. This wider driveway is actually the width of the 5 overhead doors which face Malden Avenue, and they are used for fire trucks to exit the building. They do show a 4-stall bike rack for the facility. They do need to provide a pedestrian link from either that or that sidewalk out to Malden Drive. Their landscaping has street trees, front foundation plantings, rear shade trees. We are recommending a screen for the driveway area here due to residents. We are recommending a low screen, about 2 to 3 foot in height, a hedge for that front yard parking because, again, of residents across the street. They have a trash area, they note, that needs to be a 6-foot-high screen fence. Their exterior lighting is noted to meet city code. Mechanical equipment is noted as screen, and this is a full brick facade building. Site grading and drainage and other city services are also reviewed in our report. We provided a draft letter recommending conditions of approval. With your approval of the site plan, you're also then approving that wider curb cut at 57.25 foot. Provide 4 copies of a revised site plan showing a pedestrian link, that screening along the west lot line, that low screen for the front yard parking lot, that dumpster enclosure is a 6-foot-high screen, and engineering needs to approve drainage. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions for Daryl? Commissioner Mitchell?
Thank you. Now, is the 57-foot driveway based on 5 bays?
Yes.
So the whole site plan shows 5 bays. What if there are, in the end, only 3?
Then we will narrow this to 3 bays.
Okay.
Or if there's 4 before bay. They basically need a straight-out exit for the trucks, is what they need.
Okay. And then, may I?
Yep, go ahead.
The northern site was chosen based on the cost for soil remediation. Do you really think that's a good reason for making that choice? It seemed as though the southern parcel or piece of it was the more desirable in terms of access to the street.
I won't disagree with you. I think the southern site also provided a better development of the neighborhood to the north, but even that would require soil remediation. So that's the reason I've been told the selection of the northern site was the cost for soil remediation, which is estimated at $300,000. So.
And may I ask one more?
One more.
All right. Are the if the is the site plan the same whether it's on the northern piece or part or the southern part?
No, my understanding they have variations in design in terms of the facing of the building that they can use depending on the location. I know the southern location had a access out towards Birch Street, which would then actually turn this building and face it south. So there'd be variations, but they wouldn't be substantive changes. They'd still have the idea of an access drive where you come around to the back, enter the trucks, they are ready to exit out onto a wider than normal curb cut onto a street. And then you have your access for employee and visitors on the other side of the building. So the layout doesn't change substantially. It's just the orientation of the building and parking changes.
Commissioner Larson.
Thank you. I see that the additional bays had a cost of $265,000. So that's for the 2 additional bays?
You should ask the fire chief those questions. I know he is here this evening in terms of those costs.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. Oh, Commissioner Peterson, we'll let you go first.
I have a question on the soil remediation. It's not that the soil is contaminated, it's just substandard because of previous landfill there?
That's my understanding. There was a landfill on the property. It was more heavy or thicker as you head south, and therefore there's a need for removal of more of that junk that's down there if you head south and bringing in clean soils in order to build structures.
Okay, and if it were to be left fallow down there with the northern site, they would not have to remediate the soil because it's not a contamination issue. It's the strength of holding a structure issue.
No, they're removing material because it is landfill and replacing it, which I call remediation, if that's what you're saying.
But are they removing the soil on the south end if they choose the north location?
I don't know what the city will do with the south end. If they may just keep it as a park, they may propose it for other development. I don't think that decision has been made as part of this project.
So that remediation cost of $300,000 could still be.
If the city chose to sell it for other development or use it for something else, it may still be there, or another developer may have to pay for it if it was remediated, or it may end up being a park site for all, we don't know. Nothing's been determined on that at this time.
But if the city were to sell it for development, they would probably.
They would have to do a remediation, yes.
Either that, or they would have to sell it for $300,000 less.
That could be the possibility, yes.
So whether the north site or the south site is chosen, the city could still be liable for $300,000.
Not if we just leave it alone. Then there's no liability there. It's not a requirement that we remediate it. It's a requirement if we choose to build on it in order to get proper soils for building construction.
Okay.
Okay?
But that's the only reason right now that they're going to the north one, even though the south one would have better access, much better access.
That's what I'm
told.
told.
Birch Street and less disruption on the neighborhood.
That's what I'm told. Again, you should ask the fire chief that question too.
Are there any other questions for Daryl? I have one. You said that the building has about 14,000 square feet?
Yes.
How does that compare to the square footage of the existing fire station that's on Birch right now?
Again, you should ask fire chief that question. I'm not aware of the size of that existing station.
Okay.
Okay?
I'm just wondering how much we're gaining.
Yeah.
So, very good. I don't see any other questions. Thank you.
Okay.
Would the fire chief like to come forward?
Sorry, I didn't fill out one of those yellow forms.
Ned probably knows who you are.
Hi, Chris Bell, Fire Chief, City of Eau Claire. And I don't have a prepared statement, but I'm open to any questions, and it sounds like we have a few of them.
There were. Commissioner Larson.
Thank you. I just want to see if I'm reading this right on the conceptual design. It talks about additional bays would add $265,000?
I think it might be a little less than that. It's something that we're putting out to bid as an alternate. So we're waiting, when we get to that decision point, we're going to send out bids, and hopefully if the entire package is low enough, we can afford to build 5 bays. But there's a finite amount of money. And if we can't, based on the construction of the entire project, if it comes in higher than what we're expecting, we have to cut back. And those 2 bays are where we would cut. Ideally, when we talk about the soil remediation, our goal is to build a 5-bay station. We currently have a 5-bay station at Station 10. The existing location is 3 levels. This is all, it's one level, so it's flat, and it'll be spread out as compared to the existing Station 10 now. But it's the equivalent size. We're just replacing it, what we have existing.
Can I ask another question?
Yes, you may.
The 2 bays in the basement at Station 10, are those used?
They are. We keep one of the command vehicles for the police department. We keep our brush truck along with all of our reserve hose, ladders, miscellaneous tools, equipment. It used to be used for a maintenance shop back in the day.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Peterson, did you have a question? You had a question that Daryl said that the fire chief could answer.
Possibly.
How much consideration was given to the $300,000 cost difference between the remediation with the south site as opposed to the north site?
Great consideration. Again, finite monies, we're trying to stretch the dollar as far as we can get it to go for building the most, as far as apparatus bays and size for the fire station. We don't get a second chance at this, so we're going to try to do it to build what we need now and also what we'll need in the future. In looking at the soil remediation, on the northern end, there's actually more landfill than we expected, but we're anticipating the entire footprint removing soil down to 20 feet or more. If we were to go further south, I believe from our borings, it goes as deep as 36 feet, 37, so approximately twice as much soil. That's the 300. If we did that, we'd move over to a geopier concept and put geopiers for our footings. Geopiers were elected not on the northern site because it appeared to be cheaper just to remove the existing contaminated soil.
Okay, as you can probably tell from my questions, I'm maybe a little prejudiced towards
No,
the south side.
it is. And as far as response times, obviously, it's a little better site if we move to the south for response times, but it's not negligible. I think we're in a better position to have a larger station for our needs than we are to be direct access to Birch Street. And we just had to make a choice. As far as some of the other issues is, on the north side or the south side, will single-family homes or duplexes come in on the north side? I don't think so. I think the cost of remediating that soil would be cost prohibitive to build rentals or anything. As far as the south side, for residential homes or duplexes, even more cost prohibitive. But if a commercial developer wanted that property, and I'm not saying what's going to happen with that property, and if they wanted to pay the money for location, they might be more willing to utilize that property.
I think if you come out from the south side and come out directly to Birch Street, you'd probably have to stop 3 directions at the intersection, the eastbound, or the
Correct.
westbound, northbound, and southbound, where if you come out Malden, you only have to stop Birch Street.
Yes, we have to look left, more or less just looking left if we're turning right.
Now, one of the cost questions, if I can ask John, is there any need to strengthen Malden Drive with fire truck traffic on it?
Right now, Malden Drive is just a thin layer of asphalt, and it's within the future plans to be upgraded to a street with a full urban cross-section. It doesn't have curb and gutter, it doesn't have sidewalk at this point. So at some point in the next couple of years, it will be reconstructed to a full urban street. So the section that's there now will last that long. It's not going to last for 10, 15 years, but it will last to that planned reconstruction.
Okay, if it's reconstructed without fire truck traffic and reconstructed with fire truck traffic, is there $300,000 in difference to the city to construct it to a stronger cross-section?
No.
Okay.
I can't tell you what the number is, but it's not 300,000.
All right.
Are there any other questions for the fire chief? I have one small one. Square footage of the new building versus the existing building about the same, or
I believe
is it
so.
upgraded? Okay.
No, approximately. I mean, it's obviously, it's upgraded in a lot of the amenities that we don't have individual rooms in the new fire station, which only the officer has an individual room right now.
Mhm.
The rest of the firefighters sleep in a dormitory-style room.
Okay. Are you going to take the ghost with you?
I have, my heart is at Station 10. I've worked many years at that station. I've heard the stories.
Never seen
I
it.
have no experiences with the ghost at Station 10. And I've spent many nights up at night studying in the back room, and so there's those perfect opportunities, and I just haven't seen it.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other questions before we let him go? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this issue? Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this issue? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, and I'd be looking for a motion.
I'll move approval.
We have a motion?
I'll second.
We have a second. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Mitchell?
Well, I still prefer the location at the southern portion of this property, and as a Plan Commission member, I'm going to vote no on this because I think that should be the site. I appreciate the need to trade a larger station for better access, but as a Plan Commissioner, I wouldn't do that. I think that the access to the street is more important, less disruption to the neighborhood, et cetera. So I'm going to vote no tonight.
May I rebut? I drive that particular section of road almost every single day, okay? The problem I see with having the fire station on the far south side is you're gonna have a very easy time making a right-hand turn, but making a left-hand turn, there's always traffic that stacks up there because it's so close to the light. And I don't know where that traffic would go, and I can see it ending up blocking both lanes of traffic in an effort to get out when it's got to turn left to go to Highway 53. And most of the time when I see fire trucks exiting the existing fire station, they're almost always turning right to go out to 53. So I see some real traffic difficulties in terms of trying to put it too close to that light. They come out Malden, they get right to the light and can easily make a left-hand turn. So that's why I think the northern site or the middle site both work adequately. Are there any other questions or comment? Yes.
I'm going to disagree on the traffic. As the fire chief pointed out, they can stop 3 directions at the intersection. They can stop northbound, southbound.
With their emergency lights.
And westbound. So all they do is clear the eastbound traffic, which allows them to make a left turn to go east if need be.
So I only have one question. What do you do with the cars that are already there trying to head what would be southbound on River Prairie and Birch? Because they're stacked because the light is red and they have no place to go.
No, the eastbound would have a green light.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they close the other 3
Oh,
off.
that would work, okay.
Yep.
I see the point.
But I'm going to vote no too.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Aye. Okay, motion carries. All right, next item on the agenda, for recommendation, an annexation at 4517 Harless Road.
This is the property that's on the east end of Harless Road, out in the southeast part of the community. It's 2.08 acres of land. There is an existing single-family home on the property. The property is within the sewer service area of the city. Sewer and water is actually available in the street. A comprehensive plan says we should be annexing this, and we've recommended approval.
Are there any questions for Darrell? Commissioner Peterson.
Because of the circuitousness of the city boundary in that area, do the dash lines show it as it would be if it was annexed?
Yes. Well, this is what they're proposing to annex, and this lengthy is the connection so we don't create a town island up here.
Yep, okay.
Yep.
It's
It's it the other way?
So we don't create an island down by Mall Drive.
Well, this is actually the long connection that all the stuff over by Mall Drive has left in order to, that's how small it's getting, so.
okay.
This is actually, just so you know, part of the plat here that left the backyards of all those new homes being built in the town in order to provide that connectivity, so.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for Darrell? I don't see any, thank you. Is the applicant here?
Hi, I'm John Holsinger, and I live currently at 2117 Taft Avenue in Eau Claire. And we purchased this property just recently and want to abandon the existing septic system and connect to the new city water. It's on city water currently, but we want to connect to the brand-new sanitary sewer that they just put in.
Okay. Are there any questions for the applicant? I don't see any. Thank you for waiting patiently. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this issue? Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this issue? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, and I'd be looking for a motion.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I don't see anything. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, next item on the agenda, for recommendation, final plat, High Clear Phase 1.
This is the property located west of Princeton Valley, north of LaSalle at McKinley Road. This is the approved preliminary plat for the project with access of extending McKinley into the project and stubbing it out. And here's the Phase 1 final plat. It's split in two. I can't piece this together. With its access shown to LaSalle and then coming in and continuing on up. And then the next phase goes up on the ridge line and stubs back out. Phase 1 creates 54 lots for single-family development. The preliminary plat has 70 total lots. I did label the outlots. All of these outlots are for stormwater and dedicated to the city. The streets, McKinley goes up to this point, and then they have other streets named. Comm Center's okay, other than for Nelson Court, they are recommending that be renamed to Nelson Woods Court, since it replicates or nearly replicates another street in the community. They have legally defined and labeled non-buildable all the areas in excess of 20% slope on the final plat. They have provided the utility easement requests, and this final plat is consistent with the preliminary plat approved by the Plan Commission. We've recommended approval with that change in the street name. Any questions?
Are there any questions for Darrell? Commissioner Brunholt.
Darrell, with agenda item number 1, we talked and heard from several people about the importance of 2 accesses into developments. So help me understand why this is okay simply because we can't do it.
This is stubbed to this property, and the property immediately to the south is stubbed to a point about here in the intervening lot. If it ever develops, hopefully a city planner will be up here telling the Plan Commission you need to connect those two so that you have that interconnectivity and then the 2 access points. But until this property here is developed, it doesn't happen. It'll sit with a temporary cul-de-sac up at the top of that ridge. So,
Okay.
and in terms of other possibilities, there really isn't any because of that ridge line up there. So, okay.
Are there any questions for Darrell? I don't see any. Thank you.
Yep.
Is the applicant here? Is there anything you'd like to add?
There really isn't. I mean, it's going to be a great development, and we already have a list of like 20-some people that are interested in here, and a lot of families coming in, a lot of people from out of the area, so very excited about it.
Very good. Are there any questions for the applicant? All right.
Hopefully no one yells at me when I
Thank
go
you.
back to that seat.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to make commentary? Is there anyone who'd like to speak? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, and I'd be looking for a motion.
I move for approval.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
And a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. All right. Next item on the agenda, for recommendation, final plat, Pine Park North.
This is the property. It's located on the south side of Mitchell Avenue, west of Hester. There's duplexes across the road, and this is the big tower to the south. This is a final plat, and it takes the property and splits it into 5 lots for duplex development. These lots do meet the design standards for duplexes in an R2 district. They do provide the 10-foot public utility easements we typically see along all the streets. In this case, the streets are already built, the utilities have already been extended into this project, and that's why it's just submitted as a final plat. They didn't choose to submit a preliminary plat for the project. And we are recommending approval.
Are there any questions for Daryl? I don't see any. Thank you. Is the applicant here?
Yeah, I'm Jeff Stotts, 2506 Colonial Drive in Eau Claire, and I'm a partner with Stotts Real Estate Partnership, and we've pretty much done the whole Pine Park East Edition, just another thing to add to it. And we are planning on doing single-family homes there.
Okay. Are there any questions for the applicant? I don't see any questions. Thank you for being patient. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to speak to this issue? Is there anyone who'd like to speak to this issue? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, and I'd be looking for a motion.
Move for approval.
We have a motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda for recommendation, excess land, to declare vacant land as excess land.
Okay, so I am here to discuss the property located on East Grand Avenue. We believe that the property was acquired sometime before 1951. It's part of a section of Boyd Park, which is more over to the right. The adjacent property owner here is looking to acquire 4,950 square feet of the property to relocate his garage. His garage is currently located right on the riverbank, so he cannot rebuild it at this time. This is the amount of property he's looking at acquiring. Here is the park area. There is a lift station here currently, and show you. Sorry. This shows the topography of the area. Currently, his garage is here, which is right on the riverbank. He's looking to relocate it closer to closer to the house and up near the road. The lift station is over here more. This topography makes it so that the rest of the area is unbuildable. And with that, we were looking for a recommendation to declare it excess and available for sale.
Are there any questions for the city? I don't see any questions. Is the applicant here? Would they like to come forward?
No.
No? Okay. Oh, the city is the applicant, never mind.
That's okay.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to speak to this issue? Is there anyone who'd like to speak to this issue? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, and I'd be looking for a motion.
I'll move approval.
We have a motion?
Second.
We have a second? Any discussion? Calling the question, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Number 8, for approval, certified survey map Morningside Drive to move a lot line on 2 non-conforming lots. This picture confused me.
This is the property on Morningside Drive, just north of Simona Parkway. House, we believe that garage is gone, and then you have a vacant lot to the north. Okay, it's gone. That's what confused us. And this is then the certified survey map showing the existing garage. They're going to move the lot line about 2 feet, so they have proper setback for that garage and for the driveway to the garage. These lots are non-conforming because they're only 50 foot in width. And if they move that lot line, it reduces this lot by 2 foot down to a 48-foot wide lot, and that's the reason why they need to request a variance. And we place in the report the provisions for Plan Commission consideration in allowing a variance. We believe the request warrants a variance under the provisions of City Code to correct the property line so that they have proper setback for the garage and that their driveway is fully on their property. And the Plan Commission has granted similar variances to this in the past, and we are recommending approval.
Any questions for Daryl? Commissioner Peterson?
Is the new, if it was moved 2 feet, would the new 48-foot wide lot to the north be as buildable as a 50-foot lot?
It would be 2 foot less.
But
you're still going to have your same 8-foot side yard setbacks if you build a new one. So you'd have to build a slightly narrower house or request a variance from a Board of Appeals.
It wouldn't
prohibit it, no.
Okay.
You think about a 48, you'd be down to a 32-foot house, which a bungalow type style would fit on that. So.
Any other questions for Daryl? I don't see any. Is the applicant here? I don't see anyone. Oh, yes, you are.
Sorry. Good evening. My name is Marion Moorline. I own and reside 809 Morningside Drive. I have removed, thank you for bringing a map. I didn't know what I was going to do without pictures. I removed the second garage because it wasn't necessary. I am widowed. I am a proud taxpayer in Eau Claire, and I'm disabled. So to care for the extra lot, the mowing, the snow removal is just too much. So I respectfully request that you allow me to keep the lot at 48. It's already been surveyed. I actually have the lot sold, and it is buildable. They already have spoken to somebody about building on it. So I just respectfully request that you would allow this to happen and relieve me of mowing and snow shoveling, please.
Very good. Are there any questions for the applicant? I don't see any. Thank you for being very patient tonight.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to make comment on this? Is there anyone who'd like to make comment on this? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, and I'd be looking for a motion.
I move we grant the variance.
I'll second.
We have a second. We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Next, for recommendation, street vacation on Beach Street to vacate a portion of Beach Street.
The city has received a request to vacate this remaining portion of Beach Street between First Avenue out to the Chippewa River. We're about 2 blocks south of Madison at this location. On the aerial, it's this little strip right here. This is what has become the Lazy Monk Brewery, and this is the Biscuit Lofts apartments there. The city council vacated the south half in 1985. There's an existing storm sewer that comes out through here. Usually the vacation language does retain utility easements for existing utilities. We are not planning a companion resolution to release that easement, so storm sewer easement will remain. Vacating this section of right-of-way would not impact any future utility needs of the city, but to point out what our comp plans referred to as this corridor coming down through here was designated as a bikeway. And so that would impact that, although upon vacation, it would revert to this property here, which was recently sold for redevelopment, which the city chose not to pursue at that time. So that's that. There's a public discussion scheduled on Monday, the 11th at the city council meeting, and then action on the 12th. This item is before you, the Plan Commission, to make a recommendation to the city council on the vacation of that half of the right-of-way.
Are there any questions? Commissioner Peterson?
The bike trail runs along the back of these houses, along the river?
Currently, this part of the river, there is no bike trail. It stops at the bridge going into Phoenix Park.
Okay.
And does not go north from there. Just north of Madison, there's plans to start constructing a bike trail from there up to the High Bridge. But this section, there is not a trail, nor is there one planned for construction, at least in the next 5 years. But it would require acquiring all of these properties to do
Did
that.
not we request that the Monk people provide an easement across the back of their property for
Well,
north-south?
When we sold that property to the Lazy Monk, we retained
Okay,
a strip down through here, and we retained the backside for that bike trail.
okay. So at this time, it would not behoove us, there's no need to retain us, that part of Beach Street for bike connection to the trail that isn't there, because, okay.
For the trail to happen, every one of these properties would have to be acquired to do that, or build it within the right-of-way.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Larson?
Thank you. Why didn't the city have interest in that house?
I wasn't privy to those discussions or negotiations, so I don't know.
We've had 3 properties that have come on the market. The first 2, there was no funding available. For this situation, we have an interested property owner actually interested in redeveloping the site. And there's a neighborhood plan then that encourages the redevelopment of new homes in the property. And city management basically decided then we're going to not pursue the acquisition of this property either.
Okay. Can I ask another question?
Yes, you can.
So is the plan then to, are we altering the plan to put a bike path on existing right-of-way?
The discussions that we had as part of that acquisition is there's 14 homes there that we would have to acquire if we're going to do the bike trail along the river, and that's an estimated cost of over $2 million. That's basically what we're funding the entire construction of the trail through the Cannery District, so that's just to get the property for here. It's concerning. And if you look at that map, there is quite a bit of right-of-way on the front yards that exists that we could build the trail along the street, or we could build a different kind of a street like the Wunderdorf they built over in the 3rd Ward, where it's a combination of street and bike trail and pedestrian way. There will definitely be a need to provide a bike pedestrian connection that'll link this up to the Lazy Monk Cannery District and that existing railroad bridge. There's no doubt about it, but there is the ability to do it in the front right-of-way as another option.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, Darrell was referring to Thorpe Commons over in the 3rd Ward. Thorpe.
Are there any other questions? I don't see any at this point. Thank you. So we are the applicant? No, we're not the applicant? I'm confused. We are the applicant.
Well, no, there was this one, there was a petitioner for this right-of-way vacation, and the petitioner is here tonight.
Is the petitioner here, and would they like to speak?
Good evening. I actually would like to mow and shovel snow a little bit more and pay you money to do it. My name is Anton Smets, 28 Newton Street, Eau Claire. If I could borrow this. My wife and I purchased the 1307 property about 3 months ago. My family also owns the adjacent property at 1227. We are working on redeveloping the home on 1307 in whichever way will work out. It makes a ton of sense for us to have this land vacated for a number of reasons that I would like to talk about a little bit. I was well aware, I'm extremely devoted bicycle enthusiast. I was well aware of the city plan. In fact, before we made an offer, I went to Mr. Tufte's office and reminded them about the city plan and asked what that would mean. Mr. Tufte and Mr. Petrie were kind enough to tell me that they were going to talk to Mr. Peters, I believe, about this. And when we were told that they wouldn't compete or go for the property, we made the offer and bought the land. In 1985, it is my understanding that the owner of this property was offered ownership of this strip when they vacated the land that we own on 1227, but he refused. I guess he didn't want to pay the taxes or whatever motivation he had, but there was a precedent to this. We did get permission from you 7 years ago to build a garage on the 1227 property for further improvement and development. There's also an 80-year-old, and it's 9 o'clock and my brain doesn't work as well. There's an 80-year-old right-of-way agreement between the two properties that's poorly written. I would love to solve that because there isn't really a necessity that these two driveways compete with each other. If we would own both properties, we could make a sensible decision so that there wouldn't be that issue as well. I would like to say a few words. I do really understand that you may think, why would we vacate some land and have somebody else shovel and mow it and pay you taxes for it with this bike trail development? One aspect that was not mentioned tonight was that it is my understanding that the city would never use eminent domain or any kind of legal force to get the people to sell their property. The fact is that we would never agree to that, to sell both properties. There's a young couple who bought the property. If you're familiar with the area, they did an absolutely lovely job with remodeling an older home, 2 houses down from Lazy Monk. The house next to, so 1309, was purchased in December. I spoke to the owner. They are renting it for 3-4 years, but then they are going to remodel it to live there. People have discovered this is a place to try to develop the West End and live. If it's true that you won't eventually try to get these properties by eminent domain, I can guarantee you that there are at least 5 houses that owners won't sell. Our son is 38 years old. He has 50 more years to go. He greets you from Thailand, but he says he will never sell it to the city. So I don't want to sound, but that's a realistic issue. I think it's going to be not only financially very difficult, but to convince people to give up their property, I think, is not realistic. My wife and I are very proud that we have been very vocal and involved in Thorpes Commons. I'm Dutch. I gave a presentation about Woonerfs. You can all try to pronounce it right. I love that idea. I think if ultimately First Avenue in that section would become a Woonerf in the same way as Thorpe Commons is developed, I think that is going to mean a very nice, attractive way for the bicycles and eventually proud homeowners who renovate that and add significantly to the tax base instead of trying to work against people who are willing to spend money on some of these houses that are really in very bad shape, I can tell you that. So I think those are the arguments that I would like you to take into consideration.
Very good. Are there any questions for the applicant? I don't see any. Thank you. You've been very eloquent. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to speak to this issue? Is there anyone who'd like to speak to this issue? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, and I'd be looking for a motion.
I move approval.
We need a second?
I'll second it.
And a second. Any discussion? Commissioner Larson.
Thank you. I just want to say I think this is a much better idea than putting the trail through there. And I'm really glad that people are interested in redeveloping those homes in that neighborhood. I'd like to see that spread, especially to the south, into the Randall Park neighborhood. I hope this is a trend. So.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item, for approval, site plan, an addition at 1339 Continental Drive.
This is Five Star Plastics facility on Continental Drive in Sky Park. And this is their site plan showing the existing facility, parking lot, and their proposed addition on the east wall of their building. And this is then the building elevations depicting the look of the addition, which will match the existing facade for the building. It's a 20,088 square foot addition. They don't change their parking lot since it's based on the number of employees at the facility. This project is reviewed as per the provisions of Sky Park Protective Covenants, which we did include in your packet. The review committee for Sky Park was called to have a meeting to review this application. We had one property owner show up, and they had no opposition to this addition. They do have 91 existing parking stalls on their property. They will need to maintain their required parking based on the number of employees at their facility. They do extend their landscaping across the front of the building. In the front foundation plantings, they maintain the rear screening for the property off of Grover Road. And their building elevations show a split face block that matches the existing facade for the building. City drainage and other improvements are also reviewed in our report. We provided a letter that recommends approval with conditions, and that is we need engineering approval of drainage or grading. Their exterior lighting needs to meet city standards, and they need to maintain their parking requirement on site.
Are there any questions for Daryl? I don't see any. Is the applicant here? If the applicant's not here, this is a public hearing, is there anyone who'd like to make commentary? Is there anyone who'd like to speak? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. I'd be looking for a motion.
I move approval with staff recommendation.
And do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 11, for approval, site plan, an addition for 2716 Melby Street.
Gosh, I get this wrong. I'm trying to make sure I get this right side up. Okay. They marked both these streets as Melby Street, that's why. Okay, that's correct. This is Selective Countertops' existing facility on Melby Street, and the property goes all the way through to Davie Street to the north. They're putting an addition on the back of the building. They're also modifying their parking lot to the rear of the building, small modifications also to the front of the building, and they are widening their driveway out to Davie Street to the back. That's a 5,928 square foot addition. Their parking lot is modified to provide a total of 28 parking stalls on site. Required parking based on number of employees at the site must be maintained. It appears they are removing front street trees with this project. They need to be shown, 2 of them, on the site plan. They need a rear dumpster for this facility that has to be within a screened enclosure. They need to add a 4-stall bike rack. They need to somehow provide a pedestrian link from that sidewalk out to the sidewalk on Melby. They probably could use that striped area there as the way of doing it. Site grading and drainage and other city improvements are noted in the report. We would note that's a 56-foot wide curb cut that they are widening that back access to on Davie Street. We do believe it is needed for the trucks that go in and out of this facility with the rear overhead doors. We provided a draft letter that recommends approval with conditions. Provide 4 copies of revised site plan showing that 4-stall bike rack, providing the street trees along Melby indicate a 6-foot high screen enclosure for your dumpster, providing that pedestrian link out to Melby, engineering approval of drainage, and with Plan Commission's approval of the site plan, you're allowing a 56-foot wide curb cut to Davie. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions for Daryl? I don't see any. Is the applicant here?
Sean Bohan, Advanced Engineering Concepts. Apologize for the double labeling of Melby Street. I'm here on behalf of the owners. They don't object to any of the conditions placed on the site plan. So I'm just here to answer some questions.
Are there any questions for the applicant? I don't see any. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to make commentary? Is there anyone who'd like to speak? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, and I'd be looking for a motion.
I move approval with staff recommendations.
We have a motion.
I'll second again.
Thank you, Greg. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Down to discussion and direction items. Code compliance items. Is there anything? Daryl's looking at me like. Are there any future agenda items? Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, I say we are adjourned.
This program was brought to you by a cooperation between Newsworks and the City of Eau Claire. A transcript of this meeting is available for the hearing impaired. It will be available within 7 days of this telecast. Call 715-839-4912 or TDD 715-839-1689 or write Eau Claire City Clerk, P.O. Box 5148, Eau Claire, Wisconsin 54702-5148. Newsworks is made possible by continuing community support. If you would like to volunteer or make a donation, please contact us via phone at 715-839-5067 or online at valleymediaworks.org.